Welcome, Marvelites, to a brand new episode of the MCU Exchange podcast. This is episode 27. Woo! My name is Aaron. I'll
Woo!
be your host for this episode. Alongside me is Charles
What's up?
and Joe.
Hello.
And we just want to give a shout out to our listeners over at Spotify, YouTube, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Breaker, and Apple Podcasts. Thank you very much for your support. Please do follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/MCUExchange. You can also head over to our website for all the MCU goodies at www.mcuexchange.com. Let's get right to it. The latest news of the MCU in the past week. First up, quite unfortunate news, fellas. So it's been revealed that Marvel Studios will not participate in the upcoming Comic-Con at Home. An article from Deadline regarding the confirmed panels at Comic-Con at Home, the latest indications hint that Marvel Studios and DC will both pass on the virtual event that runs from July 22 to 26. And I quote, "We hear Marvel is sitting on the sidelines and that Warner Brothers' feature side of DC will hold their goods for their own virtual fan confab in August," which is DC Fandom next month. Okay, pretty sad news, but expected at least. Joe, what do you think about this news? Marvel Studios not doing any pan. Do you think that we've been talking about it in the past few weeks about Marvel doing their own thing, but at this point, do you think that's still likely, or just they will just release a slew of marketing materials for Black Widow and the Eternals instead?
It's the fact that they're not at San Diego Comic-Con is like with DC, it's to be expected with their own event. With Marvel, with pretty much dead silence on any project they have, mostly just rumors or stuff anyone picks up online.
Yeah.
But Marvel themselves haven't really talked about anything, revealed anything. We don't have anything about Hellstrom, for example, so that's just going to be thrown into the Hulu stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's a surprising dead silence. And I think the one thing we have to respect about Marvel Studios is that, first of all, they're very secretive about a lot of things, but also they don't necessarily try to reveal anything if they don't have anything, because we know that a lot of like online expectations are always extremely high, that when, like this San Diego Comic-Con at Home, everyone can finally go to San Diego Comic-Con. Marvel Studios or DC would have a panel, and we already hear that a lot of like expectations for DC fandom are extremely high. Will that really hurt them in the moment because they have nothing to show, nothing's coming out, they can't say when anything will be released. So I think it also depends on like if they do their own events, if Falcon and Winter Soldier can manage to get their footage together that they're trying to do. So I think it depends on if they have enough for Falcon the Winter Soldier to say, okay, this is coming out this year, this is the date. They might do like a mini thing, like a mini reveal thing with like, oh, don't forget Black Widow. But with the state that the US is, I think they're just trying to be like, let's focus on our projects and let's use this time as effectively as we can.
Yeah. Charles, how about you? Do you think that Marvel Studios skipping San Diego Comic-Con is a wise move on their end? Because, this is the first time ever that San Diego Comic-Con is doing this at-home convention, and it has a massive reach worldwide. Anyone can participate. Anyone can join panels and stuff like that. Do you think that it's a wise move, that delaying, not be able to participate in this upcoming con?
I think it's fine. Joe said it best. Marvel's not gonna show something they're not ready to show, and a lot of their stuff is far from ready to be presented or to be announced publicly. Also, you do have a point in saying that out of all the times to miss Comic Con, it's when where literally everyone around the world can finally see it. So it is kind of, I guess, it's a missed opportunity like that. But then again, they know what they're doing. They know what they have right now, and they know what cards they've been dealt with, and I think they're dealing with it accordingly. The last thing you want is to make this big sort of presentation, and then Europe gets locked down, the US gets locked down, and then no one can fucking shoot anywhere. Then you've kind of just sort of wasted resources promoting, plugging everything in Comic Con, and now you're just sort of stuck. So I'm sure they don't want to do that. DC, on the other hand, that's sort of their thing, isn't it? Just announcing stuff even though it's not yet fully ready to go. They've been announcing stuff for the past 5 years, and we've only seen like a handful of those projects come to life. So it's sort of in their wheelhouse at the same time. So I'm not too bummed. It is what it is, and I think ultimately it's a smart thing to do.
Got it. And with a Black Widow trailer is in the midst, we hope everyone is hoping that that's the start of new MCU content at least for at this point. And now
Yeah.
we have another news here coming. Very interesting news for one of the Disney Plus series, Miss Marvel. It's been revealed that IndieWire confirmed that theoretical physicist Clifford Johnson will be working as an advisor on the Miss Marvel Disney Plus series. And for those unaware, Johnson has worked with Marvel Studios in the past in terms of Thor Ragnarok, Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame. During Endgame, he specifically worked on Endgame's time travel elements. So
Mm.
for those not really that, when I first heard this news, I was like, so what's up with time travel and Miss Marvel? How do I connect the dots? I'm not really aware for those for those fans of the comics. Charles, what can you say? How can you connect the stretching powers of Miss Marvel to time travel?
I mean, I don't know. I had Joe explain it to me right before we recorded. I'm not
Oops.
actually quite sure how. I wasn't quite sure how Miss Marvel was sort of connected to this whole idea of time travel in the first place. But Joe later explained that because she shapeshifts. I mean, all that mass has to come from somewhere, and it turns out that it has something to do with displacing mass from another plane or some shit like that. Something super crazy. I think the involvement of this physicist is going to limit it strictly to that. I don't think there's going to be a major time travel plot point
No.
with Miss
Yeah.
Marvel. I think it's going to be grounded. It's going to be about her just trying to live her day to day. There's not going to be, Kang's not going to show up. There's not going to be like an Infinity Stone type of plot point. So yeah, I like that they're bringing in this dude who's pretty much a genius because he manages to sort of explain comic book nonsense in a very, very, I guess, quote unquote realistic manner. So it is exciting that they're thinking about exploring Kamala's powers and how it possibly works within the parameters of, you know, our science, and I think that's pretty cool.
Joe, how about you? Are you excited, with the prospect of this particular aspect being explored in Miss Marvel?
I think it could be. So the thing is that this gives a real form of consequence to her using her powers. And that's, I think, a kind of an interesting concept. Is like, okay, so she loses mass. So what happens? So one day she uses her powers, and then all of a sudden, like a week later, she just goes completely thin, looks extremely sick. Maybe she even loses strength in her legs. Like she's going to school, everything's normal. All of a sudden, she just collapses. So the thing will be is that if they're really going to explore this concept to not only explain how her powers work, but also the consequences of using this. And I think that's a really good way to also add the how does she hide her abilities, who she is, what happens if she's like fight. I think the Inventor was rumored to be her arch nemesis, who might also be the reason why they're having a physicist here who tries to explain and explore her powers and abilities. It's an interesting concept, and I'm curious if they're gonna go all in or if they're just gonna try to use this as to explain. Like they could also use this scientist to pretty much create a theory on how far will a bad guy fly if she changes the mass of her fist by 5 times and punches him in the face. It's a fun prospect, but I do love, and I think Marvel has always done this, even back in Doctor Strange, is that they try to use real world concepts, real world physics, and they always explore. They always try to get scientists involved to give a realistic aspect to some of the more absurd elements of the Marvel universe. And I think this just continues that trend and opens up. Like there's also the possibility that it's connected to the quantum realm and so much more. That it's a really exciting prospect.
And maybe it's not just one speculation. Maybe it's not really centered in Miss Marvel. Maybe other Inhumans that exhibits
Mm,
those scientific powers will be further explored. And that beta consultant like Johnson.
true. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next up on the list of news is very exciting news for Black Widow. It's been confirmed by Black Widow director Kate Shortland that the Phase 4 entry will propel another female storyline with Scarlett Johansson's Natasha Romanoff handing the baton to Fuse Yelena Belova. And I quote, Kevin Feige realized that the audience would expect an origin story, so of course, we went in the opposite direction. And we didn't know how great Florence Pugh would be. We knew she would be great, but we didn't know how great. Scarlett is so gracious, like, oh, I'm handing her the baton. So it's going to propel another female storyline. So it's been confirmed, right? Yelena Belova will be the next Black Widow in the MCU after this film. Joe, what do you think of that prospect? Do you think that she will be like Natasha, being part of the Avengers, or do you think that she will be part of the long rumored Thunderbolt series because she's been a part of that team in the comics?
I would put her close if this continues the way it does. I would put her closer to the Thunderbolts. I could kind of see her being a double cross agent between Avengers and Thunderbolts. I think that would be a fun prospect. That she seems like a villain on the one end, but is actually helping them. The thing is just like Natasha was with Shield, so she kind of lived outside of this world she grew up in, which Yelena has not.
Yeah.
So they're gonna explore, and that's the thing. I like at first you're like, oh, they're just gonna repeat the character concepts. We're gonna have a new Hawkeye. We're gonna have a new Black Widow. But a lot of these characters have such different origins or backstories that their way of approaching these things are going to add their own flair or unique elements. And I kind of really hope that they dive in with the spy aspect of Yelena, especially because I do kind of think that the Black Widow franchise could be its own, like with sequels. I would love to see like characters like the Red Guardian return more often. So I'm really hoping they go all in with this concept and explore these Mission Impossible spy thriller James Bond-esque world that they're hopefully introducing with Black Widow.
Charles, how about you? How would Natasha pass the baton to Yelena Belova in a way that do you think that Natasha will still continue to pop up in flashbacks in future movies due to Yelena's future involvement in the MCU?
Ooh, good question. Because
Mm.
I actually didn't think about this until now. Black Widow was set in 2016. Natasha doesn't die until 2023. So, the baton isn't really passed. There's no moment where, I'm pretty sure Natasha isn't gonna go, hey, I want you to become the next Black Widow. I doubt that's going to happen. So I am kind of interested how this baton is being passed. It could be more figurative. Maybe it doesn't even happen in the movie. It's more like, you know, Natasha's dead. Here's this new character that you get to meet that's in the past, and figuratively and conceptually moving forward, the next Black Widow you see is going to be her. It could be something as figurative like that. Then again, maybe there's a scene in the movie where Natasha tells Yelena, "Yeah, if something ever happens to me, I want it to be you." It could be like that.
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting to see because for the most part, we sort of believe that because Natasha is wearing Yelena's jacket in Infinity War, you know, I, everyone, including me, was pretty much convinced that oh shit, Yelena's gonna die. But I guess
Mm.
this confirmation from Shoreline is sort of telling us, wait, that's not exactly gonna happen. Also, there's that scene in the trailer where we see Yelena on like an operating table with where she has that sort of I think something in her head where she might be getting lobotomized, and I think that maybe she's turned into like a brainwashed assassin, and maybe she becomes a
Mm.
bad guy moving forward, and maybe that's sort of the baton Natasha's passing. Maybe the Black Widow mantle will be something more antagonistic moving forward because a lot of fans have been clamoring to see the Thunderbolts, and Yelena seems like a perfect fit for that. Maybe this is where the Black Widow mantle is heading towards in the future. Either way, it's exciting to see that. Exciting to know that we're gonna get more of Yelena moving forward.
Yeah,
Mm.
Florence Pugh is an amazing actress, and her involvement is a notable addition in the future of the MCU. All right, next up on the list is another rumor for MCU here. A new rumor from Jeremy Conrad of MCU Cosmic has indicated that Marvel Studios may not be done telling the story of the Mad Titan Thanos. The rumor is that there are no definitive plans or specific storylines in which the studio is planning his return, but it is currently something in the cards. Marvel's big bad, Thanos, returning to the MCU. Charles, what do you think of this rumor of Thanos possibly returning, and which property do you think that he's most likely to appear? Is it the Eternals or the rumored Nova film in the flashback?
Mm. It's not surprising because he is, by and large, one of the best movie villains we've had in, I don't know, the past 20
Mm.
years. I mean,
Yeah,
if we got Darth Vader in Rogue One after, how many years since, I guess, Revenge of the Sith or maybe even Return of the Jedi, I'm pretty sure, Marvel is always going to be interested in finding a way to bring back Thanos, be it in a big role or maybe, like the Rogue One-ish cameo where he just shows up for a scene. As for which property, I'm kind of hoping he is in the Eternal. He is in the Eternals, but not as a grown-up Thanos. Maybe as baby kid deformed
yeah,
evil Thanos, because Eternals has to do with his lineage, his family, his mom and dad. So currently, that's where I sort of posit Thanos appearing, but moving forward, maybe Nova. I mean, maybe if they ever do a Nova film, maybe they could show what happens to Sandar when Thanos gets the stone. So
yeah,
maybe that's where you can sort of bring Thanos in. But then again, getting Josh Brolin for a flashback scene where we know he's gonna lose. Where this Thanos we see destroying Sandar is gonna die. He's gonna get beheaded by Thor. Maybe that might not be the best uh, reappearance by Brolin, but there's a lot of opportunity to bring him in the future of the MCU. So I'm hopeful that this comes true.
Joe, how about you? Which property do you think that Thanos will show up next?
So I'm with Charles. I'd say Eternals is a perfect way to kind of also explore because they are connected to him. The entire mythology they're going to build up in that franchise is going to be connected to Thanos, and I think that would be a fantastic place to be like, oh, okay, this is why he's giant purple man.
I like that.
But I do think like one thing I would love to see in especially moving forward is we're living now or the Avengers are living in a post Thanos world. And this isn't the only thing that Thanos has done. And like with the Nova story, like that the character of Nova is the last remaining of the Nova Corps after the devastation of Xandar that we still got like these moments. Like I think I always love the concept of a because we haven't had like a revenge story concept in the MCU yet, and just imagining Nova going out, training, becoming stronger, becoming the Nova we know in the comics, to defeat Thanos, only to arrive at a world where he is defeated, he's gone. I think would be a really interesting story to explore, or just in general also. I think if he returns, it's going to be cameos or like smaller roles in films. As we see with Black Widow and the Eternals, they're exploring more non-linear storytelling. We're going to have midquels and prequels and
Yeah,
probably more in that direction. So I think there's more chances for him to return. I just don't think we're going to see like Thanos the movie anytime. It would be interesting, but at the same time, that was pretty much Infinity War,
hmm,
and I think that him just having a presence or looming over the Avengers, like how do you top that? How the Avengers? I mean, some of them have to have their own kind of PTSD after that war. There's a lot to explore and ways to also bring him back in meaningful ways. I think it would be fun if he showed up in WandaVision, just like the neighbor who just happens to look like Thanos in bad makeup. I mean, you can do so much fun.
yeah. Just like the flashback in Spider-Man: Far From Home, in that Iron Man corpse, like
Oh yeah.
just to recall that emotional pain that Peter experienced.
Yeah,
And a Vision was killed by Thanos, so Wanda going into madness because of a vision from Thanos. It actually makes sense in a way.
Mm.
All right,
And then
that's
she makes
all.
him ridiculous, but
Yeah, but the MCU have done crazy things, and One Division is one of the crazier shows out there for the
mm.
future of the MCU. And that's all the latest news for the rundown for the MCU this week. And now we move on to my favorite segment, which is the Shield Season Pass. Yay! And the No Fit Show. Sorry. Anyway, this is Agents of Shield Season 7, Episode 7, The Totally Excellent Adventures of Mac and the D. That's
The
what she
D.
All right, so this is a bottle episode, as you mentioned earlier, Joe. It's only focused on the shenanigans of Deke and Mac while they're stuck in 1982 up to 1983, because there's a New Year's scene there, right? So they're left behind, and it's. Do you think that the pairing between these two is odd? Because it should have been Mac and Yo-Yo. That would be a much clearer pairing. But the writers decided to pair these two characters. Do you think that there's a reason behind that? I think it's a worthwhile. Do you think that's a worthwhile dynamic to explore?
I definitely love this dynamic because they're at such opposite ends.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we already had like this whole concept, even in a speech that Mac holds, is he did this before. Deke utilized the technology from his time and became a millionaire with a company back in season 6. So this isn't like new for Deke to do, and it's such a fun. And the thing is that Yo-Yo, if Yo-Yo was with him, the dynamic would be he's depressed, she tries to cheer him up. Maybe they break up and then they get back together. That would be the storyline, or some kind of like relationship exploration. This is pretty much the craziest member of the Agents of Shield crew.
Yeah.
Forces Mac to kind of confront reality and also get off his butt.
Yeah, and also Coulson, being Coulson, trusting the Deke squad to form a base in the lighthouse. What do you think about that?
I mean, that was peak Deke, let's say.
Yeah.
Especially with the whole like, oh, they're actually undercover agents, and then I think the funniest joke was the whole Coke thing.
Yeah.
It's just like, we're trying to bust people that do drugs. And I found out he has a stable job. He sells Coke. And it's just the face on Mac where it's like, I don't know how you could sell that much beverages to make money. It's like, oh my lord.
But I love the dynamic, between the Deke squad, and I love the reveal about it, and I love how lovable they are, even though one member has been killed by a robot.
Yeah, that I mean, a lot of it was like 80s tropes. You have the twins, you have the random Russian character in there, you have the female partner in crime. They had all the tropes, and then I did not expect how bloody they would go all in on their tribute.
Gore and violence.
That was. Yeah, I mean, especially the guy in the beginning who gets the drill. Like, I thought, okay, they're gonna have the drill and they're gonna do the thing where, okay, blood splurts out, but then they just show him from the back of like, oh God, oh Lord.
Yeah, right. So, and it's pretty funny because the Chronicoms, I mean, there are no more hunters, right? Like, there's only Sybil going around.
Yeah.
Well, she built a hunter, but it's been destroyed by the shotgun axe of Mac. It's the return of the shotgun axe, Joe.
Finally,
after 7 episodes, it returned. Okay, so Sybil has built his own robotic body, but it was since blown up. However, it was revealed at the end of the episode that Nathaniel Malick is still alive, which is really changing, really fucking up the timeline in a way. And he is in cohorts with Sybil in the similar way Coulson has been retrieved in like a TV monitor, a computer monitor.
Yeah.
So.
And it also is a callback to when I think the Malicks are going to be throughout the entire season. So we pretty much have our beginning to end villain with the Chronicoms and the Malick family.
So it's going to be the Malick family and the Chronicoms teaming up together to not just destroy S.H.I.E.L.D., but also to raise Hydra from the ashes in a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So the implications of that scene at the end, I'll be brief. Because the last time we saw Nathaniel Malick, so many Malicks. Nathaniel Malick was, he took Quake's powers. Question is, does he still have it? That's what I'm trying to find out when I was reading a lot of articles about Agents of Shield in the past days. If he still has it, and I know Daisy still has it as well because it's not possible that the powers will be transferred from one person to another. I don't know if they had the technology back then. That'll be an intense matchup, intense clash, and presumably one of the finales.
That you see, that's the thing. What confuses me about this whole thing is that, well, because last time we saw Malik, he was like every bone in his body is destroyed and a house pretty much fell on top of him. So you'd assume he died, or but now he seems fine. Yeah, he no scars. I didn't even recognize him at first. I'll be honest. I was like, "Who's that? Who's that now? Is that no? That can't be." And we don't even know if Daisy, like, the whole thing that with this inhuman stealing of powers is based on, well, from Daniel Whitehall, is that he doesn't steal the powers. He just implants the DNA of the inhuman in his own DNA to get their abilities per se.
Yeah.
Which, is probably what happened, but we don't, because we haven't seen Daisy the entire episode, so she was pretty much still knocked out, and we have no idea if that'll tie. And I feel like that will also tie into next week's episode. That will see the return of Jiaying.
Yeah, and the thing is, next episode will be like Inhumans centered, Inhumans focused, and we in the preview, the leak preview, the preview has been leaked, and thank you for tagging in that before the episode premiered, and we saw Yo-Yo seeking help for to obtain his powers back.
And it's somehow connected to May.
Yeah, and
because that's the interesting thing, that like May got powers, but she lost hers. So I'm unsure if maybe when I always forget the character's name, the creepy body snatcher lady, when she was in her body and switched to May, Izel, thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe she took the inhuman DNA with her, and that's how May got her abilities. That somehow that kickstarted an inherent ability she would have had if she had gone through Terrigenesis, for example.
Yeah, and the thing I noticed about how the team jumps, the team time jumps, the Zephyr time jumps, in a way, it's kind of similar to that. I forgot the name of the Inhuman, Joe. That Inhuman with no eyes that teleports.
Oh yeah, who's gonna return?
He's gonna return next week as well. It kind of.
I think it was the Keeper or something.
Yeah, it kind of similar. They're kind of similar in a way that they're kind of similar visually when you see from it in that perspective. When the Zephyr goes at a time jump, it has this blue circle, like they're enclosed in the blue capsule of sorts, and then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they will establish a connection there in the next episode.
Yeah, Gordon was his name.
Oh,
I don't
yeah,
remember.
Gordon, yeah. He was killed by Coulson,
I
think. Season 2 finale?
I think it was that it was when he fought Leo and Mac.
Yeah, it's a 3-on-1.
Where he just got yeah. I mean, he can jump through wherever he wanted to, so it wasn't fair to begin with.
Yeah. So I think there's an interesting connection there because maybe so we still haven't seen Fitz, which is disappointing. I have a one paragraph rant later about that. Anyway, so maybe since Fitz and Simmons discovered time travel, and they're the one who devised the Zephyr with that time travel technology, what if they use inspiration from Gordon's way of transporting other people, and then they studied it, and then they find a way to copy that visual representation of that, not the internal, but the visual representation. But I don't know. We're just gonna find out in the next episode about how that connection, or if there's a connection between those two tropes.
I mean, it could also just be similar to how the MCU treats magic, is that there's visual cues that showcase that they're connected in a way.
Yeah.
Because Gordon jumps through space, and technically, he still moves through time the same way everyone else does. So technically, there is some time travel involved with him jumping from space to space, and that maybe in general, just anything that has to do with jumping or through time, space, or whatever, that is just connected to that visual key of how he does it.
And just want to point out that that touching moment between Mac and his younger self, giving the remote control car, but even though it's not shown visually, and also Deke looking out for the younger version of Mac, it it gives me a way to reflect, like what if my adult self right now is like looking out for my younger self? It's just it just gives me thinking after seeing that moment.
It's such a cute, like the fact that like even Deke, though Mac kind of blew him up, and hell, oh my god, we've never seen Mac like at bottom of it all, bottom of the barrel right now,
that montage.
And heavy, just it's a very jarring like phase, especially because they were gone from the rest for 20 months, but Deke never lost hope in him, and I do like the line where he says, "We need a leader. I'm just a dreamer." It's like, Deke may be a little over the top. This is a guy who came from a very bleak future, who was thrown into a wonderland where everything is possible. And, he just became this person who had visions and ideas, and he just became that person. But he also isn't dumb in any way. He's just it's a new world for him. He doesn't know how to handle it. Back in his day, he just shot someone because they tried to steal his stuff, and he thought he did the right thing, but he's adjusting to it, and he cares about the SHIELD team. Like, he is a part of their family. And it's a nice parallel to how our other stowaway from the 1930s is also adjusting. So it's a very interesting dynamic. And I also like that Deke, who everyone thought was going to be the love interest for Daisy, is his own character in this way. So they're really doing a lot with a character who I think at most people thought, okay, he's going to disappear as soon as time adjusts. And him taking care of young Mac is just adorable. It shows that he really respects and cares for him and knows what he's going through.
It's really a captivating moment. And I think his experience in the bleak future that you mentioned really helped, because in that bleak future he was resourceful, and during the 80s where they stuck, he was really resourceful. Gathering supplies, gathering the Deke squad, and then finding Coulson, and then incorporating the lighthouse as a makeshift base. He does that alone.
Yeah. And that's why, as bad as it is that he's pretty much influencing time with songs and singing them way before they came out, he just knows this is the only way he can make money. He knows these things are popular. It's going to make him money. He's going to get people around him. He knows that the lighthouse was evacuated. So he's like, we see these facets of him, but know exactly that, he is this way, but he's not dumb. He does what he has to do. And also, can we forever call Mac Daddy from now on?
Oh, I love that. Mac Daddy. I wonder how Yo-Yo would react to that.
Oh, she would love
Mac
it.
Daddy.
Mac Daddy and the D.
But not in missions. Yeah. Okay. So next episode will be an exciting one, and I hope, please, for the love of God, have Fitz appear. I can't believe
we only have 6 more episodes.
6 more episodes. We're literally at the midpoint. We're way past the midpoint, and he still hasn't shown up. And I've begun to wonder, Joe, if he's part of the main cast, and so to take his place.
Ooh, no.
Oh yeah, and actually, there's already a glimpse of a hint of Fitz's smaller role here in this season, because in the first preview of the poster of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 7, his character was just tiny. Like, there's only a small glimpse of
True, yeah.
in that. So it's like a sign of things to come. Maybe I'm still going with that theory of ours that he will save the day. He will fix a timeline in a way. I don't know how, but he will be the last resort of the team.
Yeah, I think he's the one who's going to save them at one point. And I'll say, probably now I'll say towards episode 10 we'll see him appear. Maybe because the next thing is the Chronicoms are technically defeated, but they're also not. It's a bit of a strange thing, and especially if you look at the poster, every costume we see here we actually have seen by this point. So the question is, will this continue on the time travel shenanigans, or are we entering the final development towards the end as they face the last remains of the Chronicoms?
Do we have the next year? Do we know the next year that they're on? Because
No.
Not yet, right? So
I would guess not. I would guess it's the 90s, or it's during the time that they're getting Mac. They got Mac back. So it's either 1984 or somewhere in the 90s.
Yeah, it's just literally time has passed before the inevitable reunion at the end, because the Deke squad is now fully pledged Shield agents, and I think Mac and Deke already trained them with certain protocols and stuff. And well, wow, I hope to be part of the Deke squad. Maybe I will become a Shield agent. It's a random guy being recruited by someone from the future. Interesting. Final thoughts, Joe. If you're gonna rate this episode 1 to 5, what will your rate be? With 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest.
I'd give it a 4. I think it's a great tribute to the 80s. It does a lot of while it doesn't do a lot for the overarching story, it does a lot for the personal stories, and it has some hilarious moments in it.
Yeah. Totally agree. Maybe mine is 4.5 or something, 4, because even though it's a bottle episode, as you've mentioned, I actually enjoyed it. It developed the characters, specifically Deke and Mac, and also gave us touching moments along the way. All right, and that has been our breakdown, recap, thoughts about the latest episode of the season 7 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Please show up, Fitz. Okay. Next. And please do follow us on Twitter for more discussions about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and all things Marvel. That's twitter.com/MCUExchange. You can also follow me on Twitter. That's twitter.com/AaronChino. That's AeronChino. You can also follow Charles on Twitter.
You can follow me on Twitter at CFSBilinWeb.
You can also follow Joe on Twitter.
You can find me at thatAberl, THATABERL.
Awesome. And one last shout out to our listeners over at Spotify, YouTube, Anchor, Breaker, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts.